All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be going over some of our member service basics. So, we're going over this is the first of a handful of village focused webinars that we at Run My Village and Club Express are going to be doing this year. We're really trying to kind of energize our village. Our village customers this year over at Club Express. So, before I get started on the actual webinar, let's go over some of our webinar basics and some of the how-tos and stuff before we get into the actual content. So as you may have noticed, we're doing this as a Zoom webinar, so the microphones for the attendees are currently muted. If you have questions about the content, please use the Q&A function in the Zoom options below. You should see the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom window. There is also a chat function you can use for letting us know where you're calling in from or if you just want to chat. But if you have questions, we try to prioritize the Q&A for that. The recording of this webinar will also be available on our YouTube channel. So if you ever want to go back and watch something from one of these Village webinars, we will be putting that on our YouTube channel. We'll have a link to that sent out later on as well. If you want to find our YouTube channel, you can always find that at clubexpress.com. That's with the DOT spelled out. So it's Club Express, DOT, COM. You would search that on YouTube and you'll find all of our previous videos about all of the Club Express functions. That is going to be functions, both about villages and some of the general Club Express tools as well. Before we hop into the actual content of today's webinar, I want to hand it over to Kate Vestudo, who is currently stepping into a position of leadership over the Run My Village and kind of village services tool. So, Kate, I'll hand it off to you for a few words before we go over to the content of today's session.
Thank you, Devin. Hello to everyone that's here today. Some of you know me and some of you don't. My name is Kate Fistudo. I am the Run My Village Club Express relationship manager, and I work as a liaison with the B2B network and many local villages. I've been with Club Express now for going on 8 years, and this is a new role that I'm taking on in the past 6 months. Many of you have also maybe seen my face on a Run My Village user talk or two, and I will continue to be at all of them coming up in the future. We do want to take a moment quickly to express our condolences to everyone in the village movement. At Run My Village, we were all very saddened to learn of Dick Elkin's passing. Dick's passion and his dedication to his work were truly inspiring. He and our previous CEO, Dan Ehrman, they worked very closely for many years. And Dick's contributions to the Run My Village product are immeasurable, and we are forever grateful for the opportunity to work with him. So please know that Dick will be very missed by our entire team. I also want to take a moment to address some recent changes at Run My Village and Club Express and debunk any rumors that may be circulating. As many of you know, Run My Village had an ownership change in 2022 when we were acquired by Lumiverse Technologies. Lumiverse is the parent company for 11 other software brands, all with a focus on building simplicity into solutions that streamline group management. Run My Village and Club Express will continue to operate just like it always has, but now with additional resources. Our acquisition was a very well-planned and long-planned process intended to position our product so it would continue to grow long after our original founder's retirement. Dan Ehrman, founder and CEO, did officially retire in December. And while we miss having him around, the rest of the Club Express team will continue to support and enhance Run My Village going forward. And we are really excited for what the future holds. Our product is stronger than ever, and our team is stronger than ever. I'm going to go ahead and put my contact information in the chat. So if anyone feels the need to reach out to me directly, you're welcome to. But for now, let's get to what everyone's really here for. And I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to your real host, Ryan. Again, apologize for my technical difficulties, but I'm glad I was able to get this in. Ryan, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Eames. I am a implementation person, support person, and primarily for today, the village specialist for Club Express / Run My Village. So we are going to be going over, as Devin said, some basics. For the most part, we're going to be talking about what a service actually is for those new villages that are just starting out. We're going to be speaking about how to set a village, or sorry, how to set a service up within your control panel, what that looks like. We're going to be going over service categories, service types, and then the sort of extra work that can be put in to make that service process smoother, like having responsible staffers, service options, and then talking about the service providers, the people that actually provide those services, and the process in its totality. The first thing we need to talk about is what an actual service is. Some of you, I would say most of you probably know what a service is, but just in case you don't, a service is a period of time provided to complete a task for a member in the village that is unable to do it themselves. We set up services in the system by time and place and task, and then record that within the system so it can be looked at later or recorded back at a future date. It's pretty much a way to manage any kind of services or a need that a member has. You'll find that if you are a village, for the most part, you should see the services tab in your control panel. It is always going to be in between the people and the website tab. If this does not appear, that means that you either do not have access to it as a coordinator, or you need to have it added. So if you do need it added, like if you're a full administrator and you don't see the services tab, please contact support@clubexpress.com, and one of our service technicians, maybe even me, will be happy to add that for you. Okay, so the first step to getting a service off the ground is to categorize it. As many areas within Club Express will have you do right off the bat, is we define categories so that to make it easier to organize everything. Categories are a top level of hierarchy for services, and they help organize the different services that your villages will provide. I've provided some examples here, and they will relate directly across the way of this slide to the service type examples. So the examples I have for categories would be a home request, a transportation request, a tech request, or a small repair. Moving that over, once you define a category, you can also define the types of services that are within that category. This is the actual service that is going to be provided. So the example that I've given here is for a home request. An example of an actual service that would be provided is help with house cleaning. For example, of a transportation request, it could be a medical visit to a hospital or to a specialist of some kind. Tech request, this is a more general area, could be computer help, this could relate to email or just setting up hardware or software, updating a browser, something along those lines. And then a small repair that wouldn't require a contractor, which we'll talk about in a future webinar. A small repair would be something like changing a light bulb, something that pretty much anyone can do, but that someone may need help doing if they're not physically able to do it. After the basics of basics is set up with a service, we have additional areas within the services tab down in the setup section where you can create extra areas to help define and provide content for a service. So one of these areas is going to be responsible staffer. That's going to be the administrative staff that is in charge of that particular service. You can list these people. They're related directly from the database. Oftentimes, these people are going to be administrators or coordinators, but they don't necessarily have to be. They can be anyone that you want to provide responsibility to within your organization, within your village. For particularly large villages that need to cover a big area, we have the metro areas tool. This is for geographically grouping members and providers so that you can, if one of your village members is in a particular area, you don't have someone from many, many miles away providing that service and having to drive a long way. Instead, you can target the people, the service providers that are near that member. In addition to the metro areas where you can define that, you have these sort of ad hoc fields. The cancellation reasons, we do have some standard reasons already plugged into the system, but as a lot of areas within RunMyVillage and Club Express, we allow you to create your own fields. So cancellation reasons, standard destinations, and custom fields, these all fall into that category where you, as the village administrator, can create additional cancellation reasons. You can create standard destinations, which are going to be like a medical center or a library or a grocery store, places that members are going to go relatively often so that you don't have to plug in the destination manually every single time. And then sort of the catch-all is this custom field area. Any information that is pertinent to the member that the service provider would need, you can fill in this custom field section. The ad hoc, it allows you to generate pretty much any choice or options that may be needed in that service. So for example, the field name in this custom field could be the member needs some sort of equipment. And the option would include, as listed here, cane, portable oxygen, walker, wheelchair, or just a steadying hand. That's a little piece of information that the service provider may need in order to provide that service. And it's good for them to know that someone is going to have portable oxygen or a walker or a wheelchair before the service is completed or before the service is even started. Okay, so we are going to go into some demos of what I've been speaking with. So what we're going to do is we're going to move over to our demo village. So some examples, we're going to go over essentially what I just spoke about. I'm going to show you the different areas. So first, in our demo village, I'm logged in as an administrator right now. In the upper left, we'll see our control panel. As I said before, we've got our people and website tab. The services is always going to be in the center here. In the services, this is the main area that we're talking about, member services. This is how we provide services. So let's talk about our first section that I was speaking about, the services themselves and then the categories within. So let me go back. Sorry, I went a little quick. In the services, we're down in the setup section. The first item is services. The first item that we're going to deal with is managing categories. Now, I have a lot of categories in here already. Errands, food delivery, friendly visits. This is where we're setting up our category. So if I click on add category, we can see the category name, the grouping, which has to do with V2V network in general, whether it's visible or not, and so on. The colors and texts that it represents, who it's available to, and so on. Then after we have a category set up, so we have our transportation, we'll use that as our main example. We then can add a service to that category. So the service can be called a medical visit. The category, as we spoke about, we have our transportation to medical in here. The taxonomy category and taxonomy item, that doesn't necessarily have to do with basics, so we're not really going to cover that right now. But again, we have the visible, include and follow-up emails, and who it is available to. Now we already have services all filled in here, so it's a little overwhelming, but we have a medical visit, medical trip, they call it. Right here, transportation to medical, available to everyone. Now that we've defined those, I'm just going to sort of go over the defining of those extra areas that I spoke about before. The metro area right below services is right here. This is where we declare sort of a wide range area. Oh, sorry, I clicked out of that a little too soon. This is empty when a village first starts, and the organization is up to it's up to the organization to fill in those sections. So if you cover a certain range of counties or even towns, you can define those as the metro areas within. Standard destinations is over here. Again, this area is empty, but the standard destinations, generally the village would know best, or the members even would know best as to what kind of areas they're going to be wanting to use on a general basis. So there are a lot of things in here: Kroger, airport, hospital. Those are all going to be the standard ones that I can think of, but it doesn't mean that you won't have something like a theater, a movie theater. If you want to go see movies, if that's a big thing in your area, that could be a standard destination as well. Anything that's useful for you. Cancellation reasons are right here. I spoke a little bit about that there are standard ones. You can see in here, we've got standard, can't supply the service provider, duplicate, entered in error. Those are all standard reasons for a cancellation, but you can enter in your own. You can tell that by the custom area right here. When we add a cancel reason, it's just a text field and whether it's visible and available or not. And that section will be able to be populated when we actually create a service. And then the last area that we were talking about is the custom fields. Custom fields is, we have 3 options for custom fields right now. This is going to be, if there's member assistance required, that's the example that we spoke about before. The driver things is another example. These are all, again, custom field is very ad hoc. It can be whatever you want. These examples don't have to fit at all. And I can even delete this custom field right here, and you'll see that it's open. And I can click Add New Custom Field, and it will open up for me to update it. Once I name that custom field and update it, that doesn't look like it's working correctly, actually. So normally you would have a custom field defined, and then we'd have an add value. So I'll have to talk to a developer about that. But we can see the add value from here. Anytime you have a custom field name, you can then add values, and in the actual service, you will see those values as options. So let's do a quick rundown of an actual service. We've gone over the different setup options you have, how to create the service categories and types. If we go into member services, we'll see all that come into play. So let's say I want to create a transportation request. When I come into the member services section, again, we spoke earlier, this is where we're actually going to create the service. When I click on transportation request, it gives me all the options that I was talking about before. So we'll fill in, there's me, Ryan Test. So Ryan Test is our requesting member. He wants a request on the 29th. Got to pick him up at 10:30, and he just needs to return by noon. So the service category is right here, where we know that he wants transportation, but it's not necessarily a medical request. So let's just click on transportation. And then the services, oh, he just needs a personal thing. He just needs to go to the store or something like that. This personal service is something that was defined earlier. If he needs something else, like a grocery trip, we would have that service there. Once we've got that, we can add a service provider. Service provider, I don't think I actually said this before, so I apologize. Service provider is the person who provides the service. They can be a member, and sometimes they can be a non-member, but they are essentially someone that can provide the options that you are providing as a village. They can be members, your members can have some abilities and some things that they need help with. So your village members can help each other. So we won't add one. It doesn't necessarily matter, but you'll see now in our custom fields, we've got a member assistance required. We can see when we click on the drop down, all the options that custom field has available. So let's say hold a volunteer's arm. Because I don't necessarily need a cane or a walker, but holding someone's arm is nice. And then driver things. Well, this doesn't necessarily really apply to me, so I'll just leave it blank. Our responsible staffer is Sarah Jones. That's the automatic, but we can change that to, I was wondering if Devin was in here somewhere, but he's not. So we're going to change it to Steve Cole. The contact log priority and person to CC, these can be changed. Priority just has to do with if it's very important. This isn't super important. I just need to go to the grocery store. So then when we click save, the service request is saved and we can see it right now. So here's where the other fields will come in. I can cancel this. And the cancellation reason, the ones that we defined and the standard ones will show up right here. And lastly, when we go in, obviously all of these things can be updated. The metro area is actually defined not necessarily in the service. It's defined at the service provider level and the member level. I believe that pretty much covers everything that we spoke about. Devin, if we want to go to the last slide, I think we should be good unless I'm forgetting something.
Do you want to go over adding a service provider to that request and marking it as completed?
Sure, yeah, definitely. So when we are in the service request, we're going to add a service provider. Let's see. I like Johnny Test as a service provider, so we are going to select him. So Johnny Test is now added as a service provider. Nothing has happened yet. He has the status of a contact by email, so I can send Johnny a request. Now, assuming that I've spoken to Johnny, in this instance, I'll be acting as Steve Cole. Steve Cole is contacting Johnny Test. He's saying, can you do this grocery trip for Ryan? He just needs to go and pick up some things at the grocery store. And Johnny's Test, we're going back and forth by email. And he says, yeah, of course I can do it. So he is now selected. Once that service provider is selected, we can change this to from requested to pending. This status is representative for the responsible staffer of what time frame and what level we are looking at as far as the service is concerned. At what stage, that's a better word, stage of service is this doing? So once Johnny is selected, we go into pending, and then confirmed is when Johnny is actually confirmed as the service provider. Selected is right there. I'm sorry. So then we would click save on that. So if we leave, we now see that the status is confirmed right here. Johnny Test is the service provider. Now this is set for Thursday the 29th, but let's say that after Johnny Test is selected, normally I would have set or hit these buttons to send confirmation. So that would send confirmation to both the member, which is me, Ryan Test, and then Johnny, who is the service provider. And they would now have the ability to communicate themselves. Now, let's say Johnny's like, hey, I've got some time later today. Do you want to just do it today? And Ryan says, yeah, I can do it today. So then they contact me after it's done. Me being Steve Cole, keep in mind, I'm going to confirm this as done. So this is now confirmed. Now it's completed. I can set the completion from here in the actual status, or if I'm not already there, I can set the completion from here, which is in the member services section. I have this request pulled up, 1103. I click on mark complete, and it brings me to this completion. So Ryan Test thinks Johnny Test is great. He gives him 5 stars. If he's got any comments or the provider could have comments about the user, the member. So the members' comments were, Johnny is always the best. And provider comments could be, Ryan is a talkative guy and it makes services go by quick. So we can make any kind of comments from the provider or from the member and then share the duration. The duration would then be marked on Johnny's record as a service provider, how much time he spent in services. So let's say this was only a 2-hour service. And when we click save, that is then saved. And because I'm not searching by completed statuses of services, this will now disappear. And if we click on future dates, we're not going to see anything.
All right, we've got a couple questions that I think we can go ahead and hop on top of right now. So,
Yeah.
Ryan, could you go back and show the place where to add staffers and define who is a responsible staffer for managing these services?
Yes, of course, no problem. So in the services tab, we're going to go down to the setup section. Responsible staffers is right below service providers. So we'll click on this. In this responsible staffers section, you can see existing responsible staffers as well as add a responsible staffer. When you click on that, this is just a full database search of all the members. If I hit search, I will see everyone within the database that I can add as a responsible staffer. In addition, I can search by last name and hit search, and it will bring up all of the people with that last name. Remember that any of these fields within RunMyVillage or Club Express, they are all going to be last name first. So if you type in Ryan, it's probably not going to bring up anyone. You have to make sure that you're searching by last name. So then what we would do is we have Mr. Test Test here. We can select that person, and then they will be added in as a new responsible staffer for services.
Great, thank you. We've also got a question about what and this is one that I'm actually curious about. What's the functionality of the flag past requests button on the services page? This is the service management page.
Gotcha. So services. You're talking about this one right here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so flag past requests is if a service for the most part has been passed by or missed, you can flag them so that they are more noticeable within the system. I don't know that it will have any. Oh, it does. Okay. So these are unfilled service requests. When we click on the flag unfill or flag pass request, it brings up services that didn't necessarily make it to a completed status. So this is going to bring up all of those. Obviously, this is a test platform, so there's going to be a lot of them that didn't actually get done. But you can also mark them, and then we can either mark those as canceled or mark them as completed if they were missed.
Okay, and we've also had someone say when you use the mark complete check mark in the services page, um, who has visibility to see the comments left by the provider and by the member?
I believe any administrator and coordinator has access to those. So those get they are generally attached to the service, but we can run anyone who has access to these kinds of reports or exports that are in the services tab should have the ability to see those comments when they run service reports.
Right. But if I'm remembering correctly, as if the member or the service provider are not an administrator, they would not have access to see them by default.
Oh, yes. No, the comments are generally for administrators and coordinators only. They can share them with the service providers or add them into a special field that we have attached to a member, usually in the additional member data section, if it's pertinent. But for all intents and purposes, the comments left by service providers and members, they are not for members and service providers to see. Is that the
Okay.
question? Did I
Yeah.
misunderstand?
No, that's
Okay.
perfect. That's great. And then we've had a couple we've got questions coming in pretty steadily. So one more question. Is there a way to I think I know the answer to this one, but Ryan, you'll probably know better. Is there a way to send a reminder, someone specifically calling out 2 days and 8 hours before service? If I remember correctly, providers and service requesters get a notice the day before a service, right?
They can, so yes, generally it's going to be the day before. That is one area where we sort of glossed over the service options because it's a large area and we were talking about basics today. But just to sort of appease that question, when we are in this section, we can choose, let's see, where is it now? There we go. The automated emailings related to notifications and reminders, those are in the service options section. So, where is it? Send notifications. There we go. So right now, this is automatically send notifications 1 day prior to service request. This is in relation to the reminder email. So, but I could change this to 3 days prior. Most most villages in the RunMyVillage network keep it at 1 day before, just so you have the freshest reminder possible.
And it looks like there's also an option to enable to send a reminder the day of as well.
Yes.
Unless I
Yes, of
missed
course.
you.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so that answers those questions. Someone did point out something that I actually wasn't even aware of. When you're doing the member search, this is a tip from a member. We always love these. You can start the member search with a comma and then type in their first name, and they should come up. I've never seen that before, but you learn something new every day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That does make sense.
Um, all right. Looks like questions are slowing down. We'll give another couple minutes for questions to roll in. But I think that's most of the topics. I know we'll be having future webinars on things like the volunteer self sign up and more in-depth looks at things like setting up and configuring service providers. We've got a lot of village topics to go over the upcoming webinars this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it.
So we did get a question. The Is there an option to have a calendar view that shows volunteers assigned to a service? There's not a calendar view. The closest thing would be something akin to our volunteer self sign up, which gives kind of like a list of upcoming services for people to sign up for. But the volunteer self sign up is a added on option for services. As it stands, there's not a calendar view for um, the services themselves.
Yeah, I'll give a quick. This is definitely not a focus of today's webinar, but I'll give a quick visual of what it looks like. I just went to the self sign up section. This is generally what it would look like. You can look at open requests. This is what it would look like for the most part. All these are from 2023. We got one from 2024. These are all past. But if we had future requests, they would all show up here in this format, unfortunately, not like a calendar.
Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. And I just again, I know I've already said thank you like 4 times, but thank you so much for coming. We always love to hear from our members and uh, get the questions and kind of learn what people are interested in finding out about. So it looks like these are topics that people are curious about. So we'll definitely continue to have webinars covering the services module. Uh, Looking forward to a good year for villages.
Thank you all for having me.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.